Okay, this meeting is being recorded, so please turn your microphone on if you're speaking. Speak directly into the microphone. And again, thanks for joining us this evening. We have a full agenda, and the first order of business is to review our minutes of February 25th, and I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. And a second? Okay, Emily's saying. All in favor? Oppose, abstain? The minutes are approved. Thank you, everyone. In terms of just upcoming activities, I did want to mention a couple things. On Saturday, May 11th from 8 to 2, there's going to be a New London Cleanup Day. I would encourage everyone on our committee, since we often walk downtown, to participate. And I think there's a rain date also.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's May 4th.
Oh, May 4th, excuse me.
That's the first Saturday.
Yeah, May 3rd, May 4th, whatever that Saturday is, the first Saturday. Yeah.
Okay, I apologize, yeah. If you want more information, you can see postings on the town website.
It's an amazing day.
And now we can turn to the business meeting. I took the opportunity to speak to a number of members of the committee since our last meeting individually, not as a group, sort of trying to gauge which way forward for our committee, given that the town has some other major overarching issues. And, how can we be effective? How can we be impactful in terms of promoting walking and biking safety and access, given that scenario? So, many of you are probably aware of some of the challenges the town faces, but I asked Bibi if she wouldn't mind just giving you the thumbnail based on her most recent deliberations with the select board, just so we understand the landscape that we're operating in. Thank you, Bibi.
Sure. Well, first of all, if you all didn't hear already, our main large highway garage has been determined to be uninhabitable. So we have taken everything out of it, gotten the employees out of it, gotten some trailers, office trailers for Nancy and for a lunchroom, and it is scheduled for demolition. That unfortunately means now that that is a priority, and we have to move forward on trying to make a plan for a new highway garage building or a new project down there on that piece of property. So, as you all know, we had a town meeting a couple of months ago, which resulted in a motion to reconsider Articles 3 and 9, Article 3 being the one for the police station site on what's now being called the Garvey property on Seamans Road, and moving forward with that project. Last night we had a meeting, the selectmen, and we invited the Police Facilities Advisory Committee and the Budget Committee to come and just sort of let's talk this out and figure out how we want to move forward. It was a good meeting. We had. This place was full over here. It was a great turnout, a lot of really good discussion. The ultimate result was that the selectmen voted 3-0 to vote to support a motion to table Article 3. Now, that the voters can do what they want to do. If the voters want, they can still vote for Article 3, and they can still pass it, and we can still move forward with it. We just felt that at this moment in time, it's a lot to ask of the voters to move forward with both projects at once. Also, there was a lot of discussion about the idea of the possibility of building a structure down there on South Pleasant Street that could house both the Highway Department offices and a police station. So that will be something that we also talk about over the next year as we move along on those plans. So that's kind of the update on that. The water that everybody is talking about. So we are waiting for numbers for water. The engineers are down there on Colby Point, doing all of their studies. They expect, I was talking to Rob Thorpe last week, he expects a report in about a month or so that will determine what the future is of the Colby Point fields, and then the discussions will continue from there on. So right now, we have no idea on any kind of dollar amounts for the water precinct at the moment. And I think that's it. We still we're with the the Twin Pines folks that are building the workforce housing project behind the Hannafords. They had their hearing with the Housing Board of Appeals last week. The attorneys, made their arguments, and now they wait for the decision from the judge, and they say that usually takes about 2 months. So that's still on hold at the moment. Other than that, good news is we've had a really busy week this week, and we had a citizens committee of 7 people that interviewed 5 candidates for the town administrator position on Monday. Erica was one of the members of that citizens committee. And then on Wednesday, the department heads interviewed the same 5 candidates. And so our consultant, I met with her today, and she's done all the scoring, put together all the scoring, and we've narrowed it down to 3. And I'm saying this in a public, hopefully the people know this, but anyway, on Monday, the selectmen will interview those 3 candidates. And so hopefully we will have a offer out to somebody next week for the town administrator job, which is great.
When is Kim done?
End of June. So my hope is I'd like to have somebody start, beginning of June, so that they can shadow Kim for a few weeks before she goes. She's not going far. We're not letting her. So those are my updates, if anybody has any questions.
Any questions regarding the landscape? Okay, so that is extremely useful to our committee, even though it's not specifically focused on our activities, in the sense that, as many of you will recall, when the committee was convened, we talked about developing a downtown infrastructure that was more bike-friendly. We talked about a bike and walk master plan, and we talked about some other initiatives that I think are essential for our town to move forward in terms of making it more accessible for all ages in active transportation. But realistically, we're not in a position to move forward those things. An example would be, I've been trying to schedule with Adam and Sam just to look at Elkins Village in terms of pedestrian access and whether or not, we can do a temporary street ballard there, and I have not actually had a conversation with them. As you may recall, I did meet with them. BB and I met with Tom and Adam before things went south, so to speak, in terms of the Public Works building, and it just wasn't realistic. I didn't even try to approach Sam when I found out that, half of his structures were not safe. So I've been talking to several of you individually, and I want to thank you for the time that you've taken on the phone. I didn't get a chance to talk to everyone about how our committee can be engaged and be effective in the short term, given these overarching issues that we face. And not an easy task by any means, but I think that it is important for us to be realistic about our goals and objectives, and also demonstrate some patience around some of our priorities given the current landscape in the town. So there are 3 areas that I've spoken to people about where I think we could make a difference in the short term. And these are not projects that involve significant investment of infrastructure. They're not projects that are going to demand a lot of town employees' time. but I would call them projects that will build some kind of groundwork or foundation for us to have those more intense and sort of higher level discussions in the future. So I did want to talk a little bit about that, and I want to get feedback from everyone in this regard. So the first project that I suggested to several committee members was a walkable New London initiative, where our objective would be to enhance and improve the recreational experience of people walking downtown, whether they be residents or visitors. And I'm defining downtown very generously in terms of basically from Colby Sawyer College, down Everett Road to the hospital, out County Road to Little Sunapee, back to Spring Ledge, kind of that whole landscape. And I thought, so the way this project could unfold, and I certainly want your opinions about it, is and other towns have done this, is basically to look at the great assets we have, which is we have relatively flat downtown, and we have a number of streets that don't get a high volume of traffic, and that they are relatively accessible. So obviously, they don't all have sidewalks, and that we could develop some routes, walking routes. So there might be a route that would connect some of our Conservation Commission trailheads, a route that would kind of focus on the historic value of our town, the historic markers and the Historical Society, and another route might be, just a recreational route. So what I hope to do is have an initial discussion meeting, which obviously all of you would be invited to, depending on your schedules, to talk about how we could move forward with this. The project could also have like interpretive signs and directional signs, and you could have way stations with benches or kiosks or things like that. We're not talking about a huge amount of money here, but it would be kind of branding what we already have. It's almost like a branding campaign of do you realize what assets we have? And I think that the last phase of it would be focused on sort of the traffic slowing aspect of it. Can we install, in addition to all the painted sidewalks, which I know Sam is going to be working on, can we install, more visible crossing signs? Can we do street ballards? Can we employ any other sort of traffic slowing mechanisms? I see that as the last piece of it because of what BB said, which is we're not going to be able to front load that kind of attention or engagement from the town officials at this time. So I have made notes. I have approached some people who are downtown walkers, and I've sort of invited them to join this discussion, and I'm really open to suggestions of other people that are sort of really engaged in making downtown walkable. And so Sue Andrews, who works at Osmond Sargent, Julie Ferrari, who was on our committee, Ashley Rowley from the Chamber I've spoken to, Pat Coogan, who is an active walker, Putnam I've talked to about, how the rec department can be engaged and involved in. Mark Vernon is also very interested in terms of connecting our streets and roads to the trailheads, which is, although we have many trails, and I know Grant's well aware of this, we have many trails that are in the downtown area. They're not that well marked. You know, if you're in town and you've got the Conservation Commission map, or you go online, you can find those trails, but it's not necessarily easy. So Mark is interested in sort of a network. I approached Colby Sawyer College and Ella Daughtery, who was the AmeriCorps coordinator, I believe, and sustainability coordinator, where there is interested. And I did approach the hospital, but they have other priorities right now. So obviously they have a community health division. So I already approached Erica before the meeting started, if she would join this discussion. And are there any other committee members who would be interested? And this is like a one-time commitment. Yeah, okay. So I'll certainly let everybody know. I'm kind of thinking, not this coming Tuesday, because that's too soon, but the next Tuesday. I don't know if that works for people, like at 8:30, but I don't have a place, and that's not confirmed yet. Most of the people I spoke to could do Tuesdays or Wednesdays, typically. So are there other people in town that you can think of who would be interested in being actively engaged in this effort?
Well, so I mentioned Marion Chadwick. She and Sue Andrews are buddies that walk about 200 miles a week on Main Street.
Yeah, they told me they walked downtown for the last 30 years, is the way they described it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
That's why the sidewalks are in such lousy shape.
They've worn them down.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
This person who works at Morgan Bookstore, Jolie, I think it is J-O-L-I, does a
Yeah.
lot of walking, has opinions about safety,
Yep.
etc.
Thank you. Well, obviously, if you think of other people, you can email me or call me. And I think that I would describe this discussion as exploratory in terms of, you know, what would be achievable. There are, in other communities, walk groups. And some walk groups are intentional about supporting small businesses. So they gather at, you know, 1 week at Grounds and another week at Blue Loon or whatever, to act and have coffee or whatever before they walk. I don't know how that balances out with caloric intake, but it's kind of, and I believe that Flagstaff, Arizona has such a program, but they actually do it at restaurants. So I'm not going to tackle that one, but a way to connect small businesses to our efforts, a way to, you know, say, you know, walking, whether it's residents or visitors, getting people downtown will benefit their businesses. So I think it would be helpful to have a couple of small business people at the meeting. I mean, obviously we have Ashley from the chamber, but if you can think of folks who have some receptivity to that, please.
The Windy Hill School, they walk with their kids a lot because they can't transport them, so they would be a possibility. And then also, I hear that there's a new Montessori school gonna hopefully open in town.
Yes.
And the director of that is very focused on outdoor stuff, so getting their opinion about maybe safe transportation of kids walking downtown would be
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, I did meet with Liz, and thank you for that reminder, because I didn't have her on the list, so that's an obvious one, yeah.
How about PE at the elementary school? Would that be someone you might want to contact?
I find it difficult to get people from the school to a meeting that isn't school-related, but that doesn't mean we can't try, yeah. Okay, no, that's great. So I think what would be important in terms of this initiative, like any initiative, is like, what is achievable for us and in what time frame? And some benchmarks of like, what do we think would be possible to accomplish in 12 months? And what would we want? I know many of you were here for the streetscape presentation. And I mean, maybe an alluring and inviting kind of shared space downtown is the vision. It's going to take us a while to get there, but certainly incorporating those kinds of planning methodologies would be extremely helpful in the longer term. Two other ideas that I had, and I discussed with several of you, and this is a question obviously of capacity and interest, but was like a Share the Road public education campaign, which would inform and engage the public in understanding what are the roles and responsibilities of pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. And other entities such as Kittery, Maine have done campaigns like this to try to reduce the risk of sharing the road and to get feedback from the public about what they see as the hazards. So I was on the Kittery site, Kittery, Maine website, and they use wiki mapping to solicit people's feedback on where they thought there were hazardous intersections or streets. So they had this wiki map on the website, and it was interactive, and you could like use different symbols to indicate where you thought there were hazards or where there should be bike racks or whatever. I thought that was kind of a neat tool. So some kind of, I think the campaign should have some kind of public interface. Does not necessarily have to be this tool. I can share some of that information with you. This would be tapping people in town who have marketing and communication skills, and hopefully we would get some pro bono contributions from newspapers or from other media outlets. The Share the Road campaign in Maine actually had PSAs that were run on television, but I'm sure we could get some space in Municipal Matters or some other vehicles, and it would be focused on public safety. So I think all of us have witnessed sort of near misses on the streets and roads around here, and the near misses are never tabulated into statistics. So even if our town doesn't have a lot of fatalities, I would say that there are a lot of near misses where people jump out between cars on Main Street. People open doors not looking to see in their mirror if there's a cyclist coming. And obviously we have had several fatalities in the New London area that were involving motorists. Again, this is, I guess you would call it a soft effort. It's not a huge allocation of time or resources, but I think it would be a way for our community to raise visibility and awareness of what our mission, our programs. And I haven't really reached out to anyone about that idea other than several people on the committee here. So maybe we could chat that one up for a little bit.
It's a bit more of a melange of things, everything from an app to feedback from various sources. A little hard to sort of grapple with it, I think, in some ways, than the idea of walkable New London. I can see a plan right there, including names of people and so on. And it's kind of hard to see having much effect without money. signs, paintings, traffic calming things in difficult areas. I mean, if it's part of a plan to lead to that kind of thing when we have the money, or if we can get donations for it, that would be great. But I guess I see it as a bigger task, and it should at least have a bigger goal, let's put it that way. You can't do it piecemeal.
It's difficult to measure the, I mean, whether it's social media or other communication vehicles, it's difficult to measure how effective you're being, in terms of increasing general awareness.
Well, I mean, if we were just to take one aspect of it, which is the first thing you mentioned about an app like they have in, was it Kittery? If we make that the event, we want your feedback, but we want it in a novel, digital world way. When you walk around, where are the hazards? Where do you think, something should be done? That's a better way than trying to have a focus group or going door to door or trying to have people fill out a form, if you get enough people to take it up. But do you happen to know whether that's an app that is exploitable, easily accessible, or reusable?
I haven't done that research
Yeah.
yet, but I think it is fairly accessible, what I understand,
Well, we have the New London website, and using that, I'm not sure how much it's accessed, but it's a way to contact or get in touch with the community and query them. I agree, Woody, instead of trying to poll by paper using digital and the popular media sites, why not use what we already have, the New London website, to try to query people? Is that appropriate, Bibi, to use it for?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, it would be, just how to do it. I'd like to see that wiki mapping thing that you were referring to see how that works, and it would be nice if there was an app that collected that data. It's worth looking into it for sure. Go ahead, Em.
I have the website here, and I'll share with you.
Okay.
Is there a way that maybe we could prepare something to be presented at the town meeting? Oh, by the way, we've put together a survey of things that might or may not appeal to people who live here. Could you go on our website and help us out, or something like that? If we called attention at that meeting,
Yeah.
we know we're gonna get a lot of people there.
Yeah. Oh, on May 14th.
You mean the
Yes.
upcoming one?
Oh,
Yes,
Yep.
is that too soon?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably too soon to get
Oh,
all the
okay.
mechanisms in place to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I do
But
agree.
we'll probably be having another one of those community gatherings again. We haven't talked about it
Okay,
yet. but
then it's another opportunity.
yeah, that's another opportunity, yeah.
From another committee, I had suggested bringing something up, looking at the upcoming meeting as an opportunity, and Adam and Sam weren't real thrilled with adding anything to that
Probably
agenda.
not.
So
Yeah.
I don't think
Okay,
bike pedestrian agenda
Okay.
is worthy.
Any other comments on?
As
Just-
far as funding goes, I know we have, there's like a sponsor, a highway thing, which a lot of people do with like road cleanup. Maybe if there's a business interested in sponsoring a section of our walking path or trail, they can make improvements to that with their own signage and get the benefit from that.
Yeah, thank you, Grant. Any other suggestions or ideas on that? I agree with what Woody's saying, which is it's not as definitively structured as the first option. In other words, it's very much sort of a raw idea. I will share more information with the committee about the Kittery Maine initiative, and we can revisit it at our next meeting.
There's that What's Going On New London or whatever it is, that email that comes out. Maybe that would be a good place for If we can't use a, community meeting or town meeting or something, that might, I think a lot of people will subscribe to that, so.
That's a good idea. Right.
Okay, and the last idea for us to explore that I discussed with other committee members, and you may have other ideas, was basically trying to be very intentional about either proposed or current developments in the community and ensure that there's consideration for like a complete streets approach. So I'll give you a couple examples. And I did talk to Adam very briefly about that, and he said that we wouldn't be in a position to change zoning ordinances or change how the process for zoning approval, but that there are ways we could have input in the process. So I'll give you a couple examples. The continuum development, which is on hold, I believe, there was discussion about that development extending the sidewalk on Parkside Drive all the way to County Road. And the previous Department of Public Works director had engaged them in some conversation, thinking that that might be the catalyst to actually improve the sidewalk in front of the hospital, to make it like a continuous sidewalk. But that project is not moving forward. But anyway, that's an example of at least there was a discussion. In terms of the Twin Pines project, the engineers, architects, opted for a private path between the proposed development and the shopping center without improving the sidewalk frontage on County Road, which I think is problematic. I mean, in terms of public benefit. And a third example would be that I met with Liz from the Montessori School, and they're in a very preliminary phase of development, but I actually had coffee with her to talk about sort of pedestrian access to the school, motor vehicle access to the school, parking and all that. Now, and I'm not a transportation planner, but at least she was thinking about, parents and children walking to the school or having outings with the children during the day, which Grant mentioned. So I kind of just got wind of that project from a friend, but maybe there's a more formal way, BB, that we can be advised of developments that are, in the very rudimentary stages of planning so that we can have some of those discussions at an early phase.
Well, didn't we talk about the fact that Emily sits on the planning board, that Emily could be kind of the liaison? I'm the conduit. You're the conduit.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe that could be, for your future meetings, that could be an agenda item, update from planning board, for sure.
Yeah. So, and I don't know exactly what those processes are or mechanisms are in terms of when a developer is in the very preliminary stages, the rudimentary stages of considering construction. Do they first go to the zoning board to get zoning approval and then
Yeah.
subsequently to the
I think
planning board?
she's-
So this,
she's scheduled to come to you guys, I think, May 27th.
May 27th.
Yeah,
right, yeah. So the zoning board gets the first
yeah.
indicator
Right.
that there's an interest in development. And the person is either, if they're coming to the zoning board, they want approval, they may or may not need a variance or an exception to zoning, depending on the nature of the project, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know how that works. So, yeah, I mean, this is, again, kind of low-hanging fruit, whatever, but just ensuring that as our town evolves and changes, at least there's a conversation about, pedestrian and bicycle safety and access, and that we make it clear that we want those considerations reviewed in projects in their very preliminary stages, because often it's way down the line before somebody thinks about some of the things that we're interested in. So anyway, those are the three ideas of areas that we could work, and I'm only having that conversation tonight in terms of the concept and the idea. I mean, obviously, these things have to be further defined, and we have to sort of figure out, Emily, how we can formally engage in that process in terms of construction projects, developments, so that we're around the table. I think that's important. So all these projects would involve some work outside our committee meetings and would require individual committee members to put in some time and effort to further develop these concepts. And I was talking to Don recently about, well, maybe we should have working groups, and I think his response, which I agree with, is let's try to build out the work to the point where we need working groups, but it's better for us to work as a team, as a group now, and not try to diffuse our efforts, because I think everyone has an interest in these areas, but I may request individual committee members to participate in certain discussions or meetings, depending on your schedules, if you're receptive to that. And I'll try to balance it out in terms of people's times and commitments. Are there any further discussions this evening on those concepts? And again, please get back to me if you think of things after our meeting.
I think because I always see the word advisory, and so I know that the advisory committee should be a committee that is making suggestions, knowing that we have no money behind us. I think it would be nice if we could get together a structured plan of what we would like to see, and then do a sort of a wish list, present that and say, granted, we have no money, but if at some opportunity money becomes available, this is sort of what we'd like to see. Just because it's almost sort of useless for us to make all these great recommendations and our hands are tied.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that, and maybe that is a forum for the planning board to say, we've been deputized by the Board of Selectmen to explore these issues, and it's not even a wish list. In terms of moving forward to bring some of these concepts to fruition, these are the things that would have to be put in place. Right. At this juncture, we're going to be focusing very short term on these items, but we want the planning board and the Board of Selectmen to be mindful of there are some significant investments that need to be made to really move the process forward. I think is what you're saying.
yes.
So, and I think I'll have a conversation with the planning board chair and see if we can get on the agenda there.
Okay.
And also get their feedback and suggestions.
Our next meeting is, I think it's May 5th, the Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, if there's no other, if there are no other discussion point in regard to those items, I did bring a little bit of information here on the Share the Road campaign for Maine. You could just pass that around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's, thank you. So Putnam, I was going to suggest that maybe you could talk a little bit about some community events, including, you know, the Kruger Carnival, and, you know, basically, I'm going to collaborate with Putnam on the Kruger Carnival, and we're going to have bike and walk safety information there, and try to, you know, engage the kids in some manner to get a message across about bike and walk safety. We previously at hospital days and at some other events, we gave away free bike helmets. We're not in a position to do that this year, but if you just talk a little bit about that, I appreciate it, Putnam.
Yeah, so Putnam Kidder, Recreation Director, good to be here, everybody. And yeah, so I think thinking about the ways the rec department can spread the kind of message of what this group is doing and collaborate with you. We definitely have larger events where we can have information and kind of talk up what this group is doing and gather insight from people as they use the town recreational, whether it's trails or biking or walking. You talked about the Cougar Carnival coming up on Friday, May 9th. That's an event that the elementary school has after school on a Friday. It's put on by the PTO, but we've been invited in the past, and it's a great event. There are a lot of people there, and it's really good exposure about lots of different information, so we'll be there for that. The rec department is doing Strawberry Fest coming up on Saturday, June 21st, which is going to be right there from 10 to 2. That would be another place that if the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee wanted to have a table there, we welcome community groups there. You know, come up with a little addition to whether a strawberry craft or something like that, and hand out your information and have a lot of people there to be able to talk to about the work you're doing, maybe get volunteers, things like that. Certainly Halloween is another big event where we have a good number of people there. That's, I want to say, Sunday, October 26th. That's a ways off, but Hospital Days is another event. Certainly we could do things down at the beaches. We could host something at the beach, you know, something like that, or we could have the information down there by the bike racks. And I'm really open to any other opportunities to promote the work this is doing, and then also, I think, more importantly, promote recreational opportunities in the town. So really happy to do that, and I think this is a great group with a lot of varied experience. So however the rec department can help out with that is really great. And I wish I could be here at every meeting, but it doesn't always work out. But Russ, I know you, I'm pretty responsive about emails most of the time when I don't get distracted, but happy to offer a hand and then spread the information that you're working on, and then also think about ways we can work together.
Great. Thanks, Putnam.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
Thanks. Great.
In terms of the sidewalk repair and reconstruction, I have no other updates. I don't know, BB, if you do, but my understanding is that all the crosswalks will be painted, and I think that Sam is planning to have more visible kind of pedestrian crossing
Signage?
well,
He talked to the state and asked them if they would let him paint them yellow. They didn't like that. But he is gonna put some sort of reflective materials on there, some sort of discs or something like that to try to make them stand out a little bit. And he's also in conversations with them about an additional spot on Main Street that needs a crosswalk. So he's got his fingers crossed. Hopefully he's gonna get good news on that. And I was also going to suggest that at that cleanup day, if you've got information that you could have out for people to see, that draws a big crowd of people at that
Okay,
event,
great.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that the sidewalk
And then he's
repair
starting,
is
he-
going to
he's
be
gonna
from
start,
the
yeah.
college,
Yep.
the Catholic Church, approximately.
to the Hogan Center.
Yeah.
The Cleveland's, yeah, the Catholic Church to the Hogan Center.
Yeah. So that is,
That's on track to go
yeah,
this
that's
summer.
going to be
Yep,
new sidewalk.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I just wondered, logistically, when we talk about painting crosswalks, it's on a state road, so is that on the state's ticket or New London's?
I don't know. Good question.
Well, if they're gonna regulate what color it is, they ought to be paying for it.
Right.
Well, I think that the Public Works does buy the paint for it, because in previous
I don't know, I
discussions-
just wondered.
I'll ask.
Wondered.
What shade of white?
Oh, whiter shade of pale.
Yeah, right. Does well in the snow.
Okay, well, that's a quick update. And I know Grant is prepared to give us an update on the multipurpose trail, and I attended the last meeting, and there was, I would call, bubbling enthusiasm for the idea, and I thought you did a great job of facilitating the meeting, basically asking a series of questions, which is a good way to facilitate discussions. But
Well done.
I know you've been in communication with Colby Sawyer College and a lot of other entities, so please share your news.
Yeah, so a lot has happened since the last meeting here. I have spoken with Erica from the Outing Club and really appreciate their support. The database of potential customers that she has is massive, I'm sure, and being able to tap into that would give us a huge network to communicate with people and keep them updated on our plans for the multi-use trail system. She informed me that they are doing kind of a survey of the Woodward Park area. So I'd like to touch base with her in the future about what they're kind of nailed down for plans for the area. A lot of folks have proposed the Woodward Park or that Outing Club location for a pump track, which would tie into a lot of the trail networks and sidewalks in town where, you know, kids could use that area as a hub to start from, and it would give the Outing Club some opportunities for summer bike lessons, for coaching, for a whole nother activity option for them, for students, for camps and things. Another option that people proposed was the field kind of behind the elementary school doesn't get used a lot, and it's not the field directly behind the SAU building, but there's another field kind of out towards the Spring Ledge side, and we're not really sure what the usage of that field, and that could potentially be or partially be used for a pump track area, and that would connect with the downtown as well. That would also connect with the trails behind Spring Ledge. That would give the elementary school kids a place that they could ride safely and off the road. We've been in contact extensively with Colby Sawyer. In fact, Crystal reached out to the interim president, Laura Sykes, and she gave us a green light without giving us a green light. So, so she said she's 100% on board. She just needs to speak with the heads of the athletic department because I guess a lot of that trail network currently is managed kind of by that department, since they use it for some cross-country meets and that type of thing. So we discussed about building a whole new trail system kind of behind their parking area, which they are enthusiastic about. The kind of census at the last discussion that I held for the multi-use trail system was that people kind of thought it would be kind of fun to have start with a pump track and then have kind of a more challenging trail network area that the Colby Sawyer kids could really enjoy, and that people in town could enjoy also, that were looking for something more challenging. And then ultimately we would connect the pump track to the trail network at Colby, to the Outing Club, to some of the other focus points that we had discussed in town through some smaller by trails, I guess you'd call them. I attended a meeting with the Kearsarge Sunapee Ragged Greenway, I guess they're called, and John Morton, who does some trail developing and trail mapping, was there and gave a very impressive speech about how he develops trails, the uses of trails, kind of the guidelines for building trails. And it was very, just hearing him and hearing how much these trail systems impact towns was impressive. The advantage to the trail networks, the community that they bring, the vibrancy that trail systems kind of offer towns is really impressive. And he pointed out and gave examples, towns like even Stowe, Vermont, Kingdom Trails up in Eastburg, people are aware of. He's done a lot of trails in even for Proctor Academy for their cross-country skiing, which was important and really close to home. So, but he gave guidelines for the width of trails and things to consider when developing and mapping out a trail network, which I thought was really, really interesting. So we've made a ton of progress. I think we're kind of to the point where we, start walking some of these trails and seeing, where kind of the easier trails to start with would be. I know there's going to be some work involved as far as getting materials and getting equipment there, but we seem to have a lot of support in town, and I think those obstacles will be overcome fairly easily. As Russ said, we've got about probably 30 plus people at the last meeting, and people just want to know how they can help. And I've got a couple core members that I've been working with that we're kind of coming up with guidelines for how we'll approach landowners or how we'll approach businesses for the areas that we need to access that are not town owned property. So as soon as we have kind of a formula set up, I think we'll be in much better shape to approach people with our plan and what our goals are and what our mission is, kind of working on a mission statement right now. So that's kind of our next step, and I think we're getting pretty close to actually putting some shovels in some dirt, so getting really optimistic.
When's your next meeting, Grant?
We're gonna walk some trails this weekend with some people in the group. We've kind of devised the interested parties have kind of broken up into different sections. So I'm gonna walk with my my trail building crew, or the ones that are available. We're gonna start this weekend to kind of lay out some trail options for some of the the kind of the main arteries in town, which we think could be potential trails that we could, connect to. So we're gonna probably base off, what our findings are then, and then, there's a few other people that we need to meet with. We're kind of waiting on the athletic department from Colby Sawyer, but otherwise, I'll probably post a date here probably in the next week or so.
Are you in communication with the Conservation Commission in terms of possibly incorporating existing trails?
We are. That's another discussion we have to have. That is them and also the Osbon Sargent group. I have people kind of working through the communications with Osbon currently, but another conversation will have to happen with the Conservation Commission for sure. We got kind of like a preliminary supportive, I guess, suggestion from them, but need to really nail down what our plans and our goals are. I've talked to a few people that are in the Conservation Commission and given them an oversight of what we plan to do, but haven't asked for permission yet or for guidance on anything yet. So that will be the next step with them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. No, I've attended a couple of meetings with your group, and it's really refreshing to see, a diverse group in terms of age and interest, just really galvanized about the idea. And, I congratulate you for, sort of tapping the community interest in this regard. Yeah. Okay, I do not have other formal agenda items tonight, and I guess it's going to be a shorter meeting than typically. But I do want to ask if there's any other points of discussion.
Yeah, I think kind of to Emily's point, like, I think last meeting when I kind of brought up the idea of the traffic control around Elkins Beach as, you know, a real thing that we can focus on. Me personally, I'd like to have something that this group can kind of really focus on and decide what our next task is. You know, obviously with the town having issues with the highway garage and stuff, that probably will have to go be tabled as well for now. But if there's something else, you know, that we can discuss maybe that could be something tangible that we can make progress on, I'd be behind that, so.
Yeah, I don't know, BB, if you can facilitate that conversation with Adam and Sam. I just want to be, I want to be sensitive to what's on their plate and the challenges that they have. But I think the committee really spent some time thinking about, you know, a temporary street ballot installation and a mechanism for the public to give feedback on that as that kind of tangible, practical project that we could do.
Yep. And we had a good conversation with Sam and Adam about the Elkins area, and they're definitely on board with it. So I would just say, let's give them a month, and then I'll bring it up to them again.
Yeah, I think what
Gently.
you're saying is,
Yeah.
right now, the next 30 days are just,
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's something else, you know, like where we don't need their involvement, you know, like let's let them focus on getting a workable building first, but, you know, maybe there's something else that we can discuss too.
yeah, I think anything that's involving temporary or, you know, any modifications of the streets and roads, we got to have their involvement, I think. But yeah, I'm certainly open to exploring that, you know, is there something else very sort of tangible, concrete that we could do, you know? Because any kind of demonstration project would be beneficial to start some community dialogue. I think that's true.
I know that the walk and bike to school day is really popular for the elementary school kids. I mean, maybe we can try to do something else like that, sponsor another event like that, just to bring more recognition to our committee.
I have been involved with that event, and there is that possibility. I mean, some towns have a fairly large scale, like bike swap, bike jamboree thing, where, you know, people can get bikes or swap bikes. They have like, you know, free bike repairs. I mean, that kind of thing. That takes, I mean, you know, events, and I think Erica really knows this, are really labor intensive. And there are costs associated with planning larger events. But I think it's something we should think about. Is there one annual event, either we collaborate with the rec department or other entities? Is there sort of one annual thing that we could be doing to focus on public education? The thing about hospital days is someone else is doing all the publicity, someone else is basically incurring the cost, and we got lots of people there. So, you know, that's helpful because, you know, particularly when you start events, it takes 2 or 3 years to really like solidify an audience for an event. That's just something to be mindful of.
I guess you brought up a point too. On my own time, I've been collecting bikes and donating them to kids that need bikes. So maybe that could be a thing that our commission could do also, our advisory committee could do also, would be kind of maybe put the word out, just, you know, leave your bike at the stump dump, you know, where there's already some bikes, some neglected bikes over there. So, you know, maybe we can just put the message out that if people are cleaning out their basements and want to donate a bike, they can leave it at the stump dump and I'll pick it up and get it to a kid that needs it. Something like that.
Grant, could we have a bike rack at the Strawberry Fest that just happens to have some bikes ready for kids to take home if they wanted?
Yeah,
How doable is that in terms of timing and financial commitment to tune up some of these bikes so they're safe?
No, that's a good question. I mean, I think the ones that I happen to acquire, you know, luckily they just kind of needed like a chain lube and some tire, you know, air inflation in the tires, and, you know, just a little bit of adjustment and some love. You know, 10 or 15 minutes per bike is not, you know, more than they
I
need.
really like Putnam's idea that I don't know when school gets out, but I'm going to say the beginning of school vacation in June.
Yeah.
June 18th it gets out. I mean, I don't know if we can find a mechanic or two that might want to tune things up. Did the helmets in the past come from the Police Benevolent, or was that your organization?
That was the Injury Prevention Center at Dartmouth Health, but New London Hospital facilitated that. They're not distributing those any longer through that organization.
I wonder if the individual who is in back of Tucker's, who's doing bicycle helmets now, would have an interest. I saw an ad in the Shopper. In addition to ski helmets, she's getting into bicycle helmets.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Ah,
I'm just,
That'd be-
I like the idea of utilizing the Strawberry
Yeah.
Festival to create some sort of initial presence.
Yeah.
Not a huge expectation that we're just going to wow everybody, but being there and people being pleasantly surprised that, hey, guess what? They showed up and they did something significant.
Yeah.
They offered us something.
We can talk more about that, yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, I think we could prepare a few bikes if we get some donations of bikes within the next month or so.
I've got one,
Yeah, see, we got one already.
sitting in my garage.
Perfect. So I think, you know, I like your idea of, you know, getting a bike rack, and maybe we get some bikes that are tuned up that we can donate. That would be a huge exposure, I think, at a very public event, which would garner a lot of support for our committee, and you know, I think it would be great exposure.
Even if we didn't have it ready, if this wiki map idea as far as maybe opportunities, points of interest, certainly obstacles and danger areas, I wouldn't want to focus just on the dangerous areas. We want to know what they are, but also the opportunities. What are things that people were really surprised to find? I'm thinking hiking. The folks that have never been to Clark Lookout, once they get up there, it's like, wow, this has been here? I grew up in town, I've never been up here.
true.
Some of the Conservation Commission trails, just a way to figure out, and I don't know much about wiki maps, but what do people like, what don't they like? Especially if an app will tabulate the data for us.
I know.
Because it's great to be flooded with data, but somebody has to go through it and present it in a meaningful way. That's hard.
Well, I think this is going to require more discussion in terms of our committee could develop some event tools, you know, exhibits, presentations that focus on both sides, as you said, like, you know, what are the opportunities and what are some of the hazards in town. And then have those available for events, you know. And maybe next year think about, you know, a bigger bike jamboree, bike swap, which I believe they used to have in town. Putnam, I don't know if it was Colby Sawyer College or the rec department or a combination of them, but I think it was, you know, many years ago, but there was actually an annual bike swap here. I don't know if you're aware of that, but yeah.
Oh, he might have. Grant, could you make that, I'm just thinking for the Strawberry Festival, could you, if we could drum up 10 bikes or something, you could have them ready. But then could we also advertise it to say, hey, like, make it a swap? And not necessarily a swap one for one, but just if anybody else has bikes, drop them off that day. We're gonna have some available, you know, but if you've got more, drop them. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, a lot of it isn't, the bikes a lot of times are not in disrepair. They're just too small, and it's
Right.
time for a kid to upgrade. And there's always a younger kid that is looking for a bike. So,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't have to be that these bikes are been neglected. It's just they're not used anymore.
That's what I,
So-
yeah.
But
That's
Grant, if you
awesome.
could put them together, a bunch of us are pretty good at taking care of bikes and just getting them into shape. If we could have a one-day workshop to help you out, to get them ready, yeah.
That'd be great, and I'm working with Brandon Baker too from Omer and Bob's, and he is like, he's super supportive of this initiative, even outside of our own community, and he is a bike mechanic by trade, and I have a bike rack and lots of nice tools, so we can certainly, you know, get a few of us together and bang out a bunch of bikes in not a lot of time, so. And I have a big military truck, I can carry them all, so.
Nice,
These are great ideas.
yeah.
And just creating some level of visibility for our committee, some level of community engagement. I agree that, you know, we need to be doing that. We have to fill out a form to.
Who want to, they're not there to sell anything, they're just there to promote their group, and I think add to the event. And so if you wanted to do a bike swap, other people have done little strawberry crafts or something like that. So they're not there as a vendor. We charge vendors a small fee to be there, but if you want to be there as a community group, and especially one involved with the town, inside of the town, I think that would be great. If you had a bike swap, that's a great contribution to the event. So I think that could certainly work.
Can you think of another group in town that might want to be like, you know, a part of the bike swap, or maybe we don't need help with that, but I don't know. I just thought maybe outing club. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. All right.
Just promoting it through the outing club, because there are probably a lot of kids who are looking for bikes, so that would be a great avenue to promote this activity, yeah, if you'd be receptive to doing that, yeah. Great, okay, thank you, Grant, for suggesting that. And we'll be in touch in terms of solidifying all that. Any other points of discussion tonight? Again, I appreciate everyone's full participation, and our next meeting is May, the third Thursday of May. I think I have it on my calendar. That would be the 15th.
Hold on. Let me just make sure we don't have a, let's double check that date. I don't think I have my select board calendar up yet, but
Okay, yeah.
we just released our meeting dates. That one sounds familiar, so let's just double check it first.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I did go through the select board
Okay.
meeting schedule, and the only conflict was April
Yeah.
and December.
You're right. I think we have a May 8th, so you're right. So I think we're free the 15th.
So-
You're good. Okay.
Yeah, so again, the 15th of May at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah.
If we're gonna have a meeting in May 15th, maybe we could have just a smaller core group from this committee get together and talk about the bike swap.
Sure.
Just so that we have a plan for the 15th. Because if we're gonna plan this out for June 21st for the Strawberry Festival, that doesn't give us a lot of time from
Yeah,
that
okay.
meeting till.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think we'll probably need to meet before that, yeah.
Okay.
Are there members of the committee who would be interested in participating in that meeting, the bike swap event planning meeting. All right, so pretty much everybody, yeah. Okay, well, maybe Grant, you and I will work on a proposed date and time for that. And we'll circulate it to the committee, so, yeah, great, okay. So at this juncture, I think we'll bring the meeting to a close, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. And a second? Okay, thanks, everyone.